Hello, and welcome back to Method Muse, where we talk about science-based manifestation methods and concepts. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're into this topic. Let's get started. Today we're talking about belief systems and specifically limiting beliefs in manifestation. How do these beliefs form? How do they get stuck? And how do you rewrite them so you can have the experience that you want to have in your reality? The reality filters that our brain uses are based on our identity, on our memories, on our previous experiences, and mostly on our programming. So if something doesn't fit inside of our belief structure, it gets ignored by the brain or gets basically rewritten or in some way rationalized to fit the narrative. And we all have a particular narrative, and it's really important that we have these narratives because they maintain stability of our understanding of our experience of reality. They give us limits about who we are, what we'll do, because we have limited energy, and our brain always wants to conserve energy, find the shortcuts to what we should do when we should do what, right? And what we should believe about it, what we should think, how we should interpret it, what our perception should be about a situation. And it has always, always got the foundation of survival. We are survival systems, biological survival systems. So our if-then protocols, if this happens, then do this. If this happens, then think this, are basically unconscious presets, which we can change to a degree. I mean, maybe to a very large degree. It just depends on the person, how flexible their identity system is. And the identity is the predictive processing, the survival predictive processing, right? This is why our identities are so very important to us. This is why our mind fixates on the identity and why the observer can sometimes be difficult to access. But when you access the observer and you see your character that you're living, that you're being, and you see yourself objectively, you become meta aware, you become mindful of your thoughts and your experience and how you're projecting these ideas. And especially once you start digging into your shadow aspects, when you can accept that information, the filter loosens and you can receive more in your reality. You can believe more about yourself because you can perceive more from the data that you're getting, right? Because otherwise it'd just be a mess of data. It'd be like this messy lucid dream that had no beginning or end and you just bounce around. Our brain makes time linear. It makes the story sequence. It sequences stories so that they can make sense, so that we can reference what should I do in this situation. And beliefs are also state regulators. They keep you acting consistently. They keep you acting towards, what your system feels as safety, that homeostasis of, knowing what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. And we've done this before, right? The brain loves routines. It loves cycles. It loves evidence of success. And it loves, confirmation of safety. And the problem is that when you get a belief that feels very, very solid and you don't challenge it, you can get into this self-referencing loop that's like this bubble world syndrome, and you just keep seeking more evidence positively and ignoring any evidence negatively. Like literally, you can't see it. It's like evidence blindness, cognitive blindness to being able to see it. Like your brain just won't do it because you've repeated this thought process so many times. This is the status quo for safety. So getting out of it is actually going to be really uncomfortable. Well, mastering manifestation is not always comfortable. It's always fun, though, isn't it? Aren't we having such a good time? Okay, most of the time we are. But when you perfect the pause, and I always talk about perfecting the pause because the pause is where it's at, because you will start questioning, when did I start believing this thing? Let's say you have a belief that you can't find true love because you're, I don't know, unlovable, not funny enough, not this enough, or too much of this or too much of that. And you can't find a partner, or you can't find friends, or you can't find the connections that you want because there is something fundamentally wrong with you, right? And a lot of people get this program. This is a very pervasive program in the matrix construct. Like this matrix construct it wants to keep you engaged. Success is not as engaging as suffering. So, whatever keeps the ball rolling, right? So, what you've got to do if you want to get out of that suffering loop is you've got to start recognizing when your beliefs are not serving you. This is the limiting belief. If it is not serving your move forward into a new identity that you have obviously pre selected and want to move into, and you just need to shed your old programs, these beliefs can't come with you. Believing that you're not good enough, believing that you can't change, believing that life will always be this way no matter what happens. All that stuff has to pack up and leave, basically. It was never really part of you to begin with. It was only renting space in your head. So basically it's not paying rent. So you got to kick it out. And this is where the state regulation comes in, because remember, we want the homeostasis, right? Your allostatic load. Allostasis is your ability to change, your flexibility in altering those identity predictive processes. So changing those beliefs also means eliminating part of your identity, which was your predictive process, right? Which your brain guards above all else because it's like life sustaining. And it is. I mean, you do need it. It's not like a small thing. Ego is not a small thing, but it's like a pet. You can't let it run the show. You got to guide it. You got to cultivate it, nurture it, create the best possible conditions, right? So you want to create personality pillars. So the way that we have these personality pillars is basically we kind of compare ourselves to others, to how they view us, to how the world views us, because this is how we developed as children, right? We had no context for what the world was. We had no understanding. We had to trust the program that we were given, whatever program that was. Right? If the parent program, the caregiver program, the school program, the justice system program, the whatever TV media programs, right? We have tons of programs as we're developing, like ridiculous amounts. So don't be surprised if it takes a little bit of time to rewire some of these underlying things. Be patient with yourself, be understanding, be accepting and understanding that you're an automated system, but you're also a very powerful automated system in that you can change and adapt. You can do these things. You can move into the new identities, and reality is going to reflect that back to you. So when you have these pillars of your personality, they're basically social pillars, they're societal pillars, cultural pillars, right? And even internal pillars about who I am. This is who I am, and who I am dictates what I do. This is how the system works, right? And usually we get like a base level when we're born, whatever body we're born in, whatever that culture decides that body's assignment is, it will try to train that body to act in accordance so that society can be cohesive. This is so society can function together as a whole and everybody's not going all over the place, right? Same thing with how your brain works. It's got to create limits, it's got to create protocols, it's got to eliminate other possibilities to narrow the focus, to save energy, and to make everything make sense. So when you want to make an identity shift, always start small. Start with just a few little things. And then as you can feel your system and your mind becoming more flexible, and you're taking care of yourself while you're meeting your needs while you're doing this, right? Because your brain is literally physically rewiring itself. It takes a huge amount of energy to change these programs. This is why most people will not do this voluntarily. And even if they try, even trying to change can be extremely hard depending on if you've never identified with something before, if you've never associated that with you before, like being a rich person, right? Or being a poor person. These are just words. They don't really mean anything. Rich can mean, I have everything that I want and I never have to do anything. You know, it can mean that I have trillions in the bank. But what happens if the dollar doesn't mean anything tomorrow, right? What is it you have exactly? This is important to understand in the identity structures too. What is the foundation of what you are actually trying to have? And what are the possibilities of you both having it or not having it? Because you need to be okay with the not having to release the resistance. Otherwise, you're just going to basically keep focusing on, I don't have, I don't have, I don't have. And that's what you're going to get reflected back because that's the norm. That's the system's previous protocol. And if you can't sustain the new program, the new belief structure, it just has to go back to the old one because it can actually create a system crash. This is actually the basis for some psychological conditions that if there is no predictive processing program, the identity, right? If it's not there if you have an old program and you can't go back to it, but you have no new program and nothing to move forward to. Basically, it's like blue screen, you know, it's that you have nothing, like you can't do anything. It seems like nothing is safe is the problem, right? And people completely freeze up, sometimes become catatonic. Now, this is a very extreme end of things. It's not common, but that can happen, if the identity becomes so shrunken down. So what you want is an identity that's built up, that is flexible. It's like building a muscle, right? You take a little bit more each day and you open up to a little bit more. Oh, I didn't know that. And it can be a little uncomfortable. Sometimes it's a lot uncomfortable, and you need to kind of lean into that discomfort to be like, this is growth. This is growth. Stretch a little bit more, but don't push too far. You rip the muscle, right? So this is how you build up and become more flexible in your manifestation ability. Because the more you can be flexible about what you let into your filtering system, the more you can manifest, the more you can have a new experience. Just keep in mind that when you get to the manifestation, when you get there, that's a story point. It's not an outcome. I mean, it is, but it's also just like a pit stop, you know? So when you're trying to change your beliefs, also keep in mind that evidence can be subjective. So always be careful about what evidence you're leading into and decide, is this evidence serving me? Right? Because we can find evidence of all sorts of things, and it's more of a tunnel vision. It's not considering all the outlying aspects. And that's a survival based state. That's scarcity, right? And we want to be abundant. So we want to be open to what feeds us, what makes us feel good, what gets that baseline nervous system state calmer, right? So I hope this has helped you understand a little bit more about how belief systems work in the brain, how they work with identity, and how to shift those through, without forcing it through. Because forcing generally yields, sometimes it'll yield results, but it's like brute force. You'll get results, but they're like unsatisfactory, and you're like, this is exactly what I ordered, but it doesn't taste very good, you know? And this is where you really need to make the distinction that you want the experience of enjoyment, of peace, of prosperity, of abundance, of not feeling scarcity, not feeling fear. You're not trying to eliminate things, you're trying to expand your awareness to include these things in your reality. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and sign up for the Method News newsletter in the description below.